What's going on, guys? Cultimush back at it with an $800 gaming PC build, and I think this is one of the best builds I've ever done. This is an awesome 1080p or even 1440p gaming machine. This is just an awesome build for gaming, and enough me ass-kissing myself, let's get right into the build. Starting things off with the CPU, I went with the Intel Core i5-4460 3.2GHz quad-core processor. Now, what I love about the 4460 is that it's an i5, it's a quad-core CPU, but it comes at such a reasonable price of around $170. Yes, while it's not a K-series CPU like the i5-4690K, look at the price of the i5-4690K. It's about $60 more expensive, so the i5-4460 is a much better option if you're a budget gamer. And yes, I know the Skylake CPUs are out, but if you get a Skylake CPU, those CPUs are really expensive, then you need an expensive motherboard as well. It just doesn't make a lot of sense in a budget end build. But the i5-4460 is such a great CPU right now. Like I said, it's at a great price of $170. While you can't overclock it, it still comes clocked in at 3.2 gigahertz. And it's an Intel quad-core CPU, which is great because a lot of games like The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt and even games like Battlefield 4 really take advantage of the quad-core that the i5 has. And you can just stick with the stock cooler with the 4460, you're not going to be overclocking it anyway. So not a real necessity to get something even more expensive. If you do want to pick up something like a Hyper 212 for only around $20 to $30, you can do that, but no need to get something fancy like water cooling or anything like that. For the motherboard, I went with the ASRock Fatality H97 Killer ATX LG1150 motherboard. This motherboard is around $110. There's also a $20 mail-in rebate attached to this motherboard, so if you decide to use that, you can get it for around $90. That's a bit more expensive for an H97 board, but the ASRock Fatality Killer is really good. In an $800 build, I would like to have a good color scheme, and the motherboard comes in an awesome black and red color scheme. It's a full-size ATX board, obviously on the LG1150 socket on the Intel H97 chipset, and it's got 4 RAM slots up to DDR3 1600, up to 32GB of max memory. It's got RAID support, 4 SATA 6 ports, and onboard USB 3 headers. So while yes, it is a tad bit more expensive than the typical H97 board, the color scheme is awesome, and it's got a lot of great features for this kind of price. And even still, $110 isn't that bad for a motherboard like this, and you're getting a $20 mail-in rebate as well, so if you decide to use that, then $90 for a motherboard like this is a great deal. For memory, I went with Kingston HyperX Fury Black 8GB, 2 4GB sticks running at DDR3 1600MHz. $40 for 8GB of RAM, you really can't go wrong with that. 8GB is a great amount to have, and like I said, the motherboard does have 4 RAM slots, so you can expand that in the future. But for now, pretty much every game is going to be fine with 8GB of RAM, but if you are the kind of guy you do a lot of video editing, rendering, maybe keep that 16GB option open for the future, but for now, I would just stick with the 8GB kit. For storage, I went with the Western Digital Caviar Blue 1TB 7200 RPM hard drive. $50 for a terabyte of storage, not much more to say. I didn't go with an SSD in this build. I just think the money you could have spent on the SSD, that's much better to put that towards the graphics card, and the Caviar Blue speeds are decent for it being a mechanical drive, and it's only $50. Like I've been saying in my other videos, if you're the kind of guy that you don't think a terabyte's enough, and for a lot of people it really isn't because a lot of games these days are like 40 to 50 gigabytes, and if you're downloading movies, recording videos too, a terabyte sometimes isn't enough for a lot of people. Seagate's got a lot of 2 and 3 terabyte hard drives that go on sale all the time, so keep your eyes open for those too. You can pick up 2 terabyte drives for like $70, and you can get a 3 terabyte drives for around $100. So just keep your eyes open for those if you think you might be interested in something more than a terabyte. Otherwise, the Caviar Blue 1TB for $50 is a good deal. For the video card, I went with the Asus Radeon R9 390 8GB video card. This GPU is around $340, and it's a great graphics card for whether you're doing 1080p gaming or 1440p gaming. Gaming at 1080p, you're going to be pretty much maxing out any game and getting 60 frames per second. There are the anomalies out there, like Witcher 3 with Hairworks turned on, Metro Last Light with all its features turned on. There's always going to be anomalies like that where you need super high-end rigs to run them. But for the most part, the R9 390 is going to give you a hell of a gaming experience for $340. And it's got a monstrous 8GB of video buffer, which is probably more than you need, but it's definitely nice to have, especially if you are gaming at 1440p. That 8GB is definitely going to come into play in the future. But yeah, the R9 390 is just a killer GPU right now. The one thing that I do have to note, that at some places this GPU is hard to find. It goes out of stock frequently. So if you don't see it in stock and you really want to just get your graphics card right away, you can pick up the GTX 970. That's also a very good GPU. But if the R9 390 is available, I definitely would get that. And this Asus one in particular looks great in the build, so for $340, this is a good option in this build. For the power supply, I went with the EVGA SuperNOVA Next 650W 80+ Gold certified power supply, and this is fully modular, so that's going to keep cable management a lot more simple. 650 watts is definitely enough to power this build. I'm not a big fan of crossfire configurations anyway. For around $80, yes, it's pricier for a 650 watt power supply, but this one's really high quality, and like I said, fully modular, it's going to keep cable management a breeze. So I think this was a good option in the build. You could probably even get away with one of EVGA's bronze certified 600 watt power supplies, so you pick that up if you do want to save a bit of money. Finally, for the case, I went with the NZXT S340 Black ATX mid-tower case. This comes in black or white, so just pick the color of your preference. I think black looks better in the color scheme of this build, but I will leave that option up to you. The S340 is a great mid-tower case, and it's only around $60. It's got the side window, which I think 99% of new PC builders always like to have, and it's just a great case for a very cheap price. Aesthetically, it looks great, has great cable management. The one thing you do have to note is this does not have a DVD drive in it, so you will need an external DVD drive or a flash drive or something like that to boot the OS onto. But nowadays, not many people use DVD drives anyway, so the NZXT S340 is one of the best mid-tower cases on the market right now. So as always, guys, thanks for watching this video. If you have a request for a future video, leave it in the comment section down below. And as always, guys, have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out!